Reviewing NHL matinee games of November 23rd, 2018. There were 15 games on today. Everyone played basically except LA. So let's scoop through this. Also do another video, a separate video with the later games. Philadelphia Flyers beat the New York Rangers 4-0. I always have a hard time pronouncing this guy's name. I should know it by now, but Konecki. In any case, in this game overall, got a Gordie Howe hat trick. He scored a goal, got an assist, got in a fight. And to start the first, he opens the scoring. He gets his sixth of the season, assisted by Couturier and Giroux. In the second period, no goals. Third period, Couturier gets his ninth of the season. Konecki gets an assist, as does Giroux. You basically just kind of switch around the players here, and they all get their second point of the evening. So that's 2-0 Philly, 3-0 Philly. Still in the third, Wheel gets his third of the year, assisted by Simmons. And then the same line strikes again. Makes it 4-0. Couturier gets his second of the game, 10th of the season, assisted by Konecki and Giroux. Philly went 0-for-1 on the power play. New York Rangers went 0-for-3. Pickard had 31 saves in the shutout. I know. Yeah, Pickard. He looked good. Lundqvist saved 42 of 45. You know, as you see, most of these goals were scored later on in the third, actually. Lundqvist looked really good for a lot of the game. I mean, this game could have easily been like 8-0. New York Rangers did have some opportunities, but Lundqvist was just amazing. Philly was 10-2 now with 22 points. New York Rangers are 12-9-2 with 26 points. Next up, the Anaheim Ducks beat the Edmonton Oilers 2-1 in overtime. Anaheim was losing this game 1-0 and then pulled their goalie in the third to even it up. One of the few times this works, but it worked in this game. Kind of a heartbreaking loss for Edmonton. In the first, no goals. Second, no goals. Third period, Nugent Hopkins scores his sixth of the season on the power play from, guess who? McDavid and Shiason on the power play. Anaheim Ducks in the closing minutes pull their goalie. Ritchie gets his first of the year. It's taken him a little while. I know he was a holdout because of a contract. He was an RFA. But still, that's a slow start for him. Assisted by Raquel and Pedersen. And then in overtime, it's Raquel gets his second point of the evening. His fourth of the year, assisted by Montour and Getzlaf with like some kind of huge... Montour passed this from behind his own net. When it just went just past the offensive blue line to get to Raquel. It was quite the stretch pass. The players were changing on the fly, and that's how it kind of got over to him. Anaheim is 0-for-2 on the power play. Edmonton's 1-for-2. Gibson made 27 of 28 saves. Koskinen, 23 of 25. He's probably a goalie you might want to think of picking up because they're going to be playing him more than Cam Talbot. It looks like Cam Talbot. I said tablet. Now, one of the reasons I hesitate with maybe picking him up as a second goalie if you're in a in a larger fantasy pool is what I'm referring to. Is that of course Edmonton just switched coaches. Even before that, it looked like they were going to run with Koskinen, and so far it looks like Hitchcock will too. So we'll see how that pans out. But you want to keep an eye on him. You may want to pick him up because the division Edmonton is in the Pacific is pretty weak, and there's a chance with a coaching change like the guy like Hitchcock. They've been known to turn teams around and get them into the playoffs, and because the division they're in is so bad, they may sneak in. Edmonton may sneak in. Anaheim's now 10-9-5 with 25 points. Edmonton is 10-10-2 with 22. Next game, the Washington Capitals beat the Detroit Red Wings 3-1. Detroit opens the scoring. NSCU gets his 10th goal of the season, assisted by Vanek and DeKaiser. He's really coming around. Young kid. He's going to do well. If you're in a fantasy pool and have a large group, you may want to pick him up in some of the higher rounds or trade for him. Second period. Moving on. Wilson scores his third of the season, assisted by Backstrom and Ovechkin. Side note on Wilson, that's his third goal in 6 games right now since he came back from suspension. Yeah. In the third period, Washington goes ahead, takes the lead, makes it 2-1. Kemphy gets the second goal of the season, assisted by Boyd and Burakovsky. Funny but not so funny about this goal is that during the celebration, Boyd just comes charging in and headbutts Kempy in the face, draws blood. It was easy on the celebration, players, when you're out there. Ovechkin then makes it 3-1, gets the second point of the game, his 16th goal of the season, assisted by Dowd and Wilson. Ovechkin and Wilson get their second point of the night. Washington goes 0-for-3 on the power play. So does Detroit. Holtby makes 31 of 32 saves. Bernier, 17 of 20. Washington's now 12-7-3 with 27 points. Detroit's 10-10-2 with 22. They're maybe cooling off a little bit from this point on. Next up, the Minnesota Wild beats the Winnipeg Jets 4-2. This was quite the game. I caught pieces of this game, as I did the Philly game. But for Minnesota, on a side note, before we start looking at the scoring, Minnesota, Suter coming into this game was averaging 26 minutes a game. Second only to Doughty. Yeah. Winnipeg, Lanny now has, I'm trying to read my own writing. Lanny now has 6 goals in his last 3 games. He scored another one in this one. At the start, at least to start this game, because he had been going quite dry, Niederreiter was demoted to the 4th line, and he really responded, as we'll get to that. There was also a bench brawl in this one. Lowry from Winnipeg basically shoved, checked one of the Minnesota players, caught him in the face with his shoulder, and then when he came back to push him, Lowry just shoved him right into his own bench. The door happened to be open, and then brawl ensued, and these guys face each other in the playoffs again, or even the next time they play. It's going to be fun to watch. Starting the scoring off, Laine scores, gets his 14th. Surprise! Assisted by Myers and Little. 1-0 Winnipeg. That's it for the first period. In the second period, Ehlers gets his 5th of the year on the power play, assisted by Perreault and Morrissey. And then in the third period starts, and it's all Minnesota. Hellebuck was playing a pretty decent game up to this point as well. Niederreiter gets his... There he is. On the 4th line, gets his 3rd of the season, assisted by Patterin and Statlock. Statlock, the goalie, who started for Minnesota in this game, gets an assist. So it's 2-1 Winnipeg. 2-2 now Fair from the 4th line. He's the centerman. Gets his 4th of the season, assisted by Niederreiter. Gets his 2nd point of the game, also assisted by Dumba. And then it's 3-2 Minnesota. Stahl gets the game winner in this one, his 9th of the season. He's heating up, assisted by Dumbo, gets his 2nd point of the night, and Granlund. And then Minnesota caps it off 4-2. Parise gets his 10th of the season. He looks good this year as well. Assisted by Spurgeon and Suter, and that was an empty net goal. Minnesota goes 0-for-6 on the power play. Ouch. Gotta do something about that, Boudreau. Winnipeg goes 1-for-4, and it looked pretty. looked very pretty, that goal. That one goal they did score. Statlock saves 26-28. Hellbuck 35-38. Minnesota is now 14-7-2 with 30 points. They're near the top of the West right now. Winnipeg is 12-7-2 with 26. Next up, the Buffalo Sabres win again. Again. They beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 in overtime. This is now Buffalo's 8th win in a row. And a big part of it would be Skinner. Skinner is just, if he keeps this up, he's on pace for 60 goals in the season right now. And he now has 17. After this game, he had 17 in 23 games. And Buffalo is now second in the Atlantic, behind Tampa, who won today, and ahead of Toronto, who lost. Buffalo, did I say that already? Starting the scoring off in the first period, Middlestat got his 4th of the year, assisted by Sherry and McCabe. Second period, so that's 1-0 Buffalo. In the second period, Montreal ties it up. Gallagher gets his 11th of the season. He's been looking good, assisted by Daniel and Tatar. I don't know if you remember that one of that kid in the Montreal stadium who they caught on camera, who just Anyways, you can find it on social media, just clips of him hitting up the roaming camera in the concession stands, just ta-da! It's, I don't know, maybe it's just funny to me. So then Montreal, starting off in the third period, Montreal goes ahead 2-1. Jacques gets his 7th of the year on the power play, assisted by Shlemenko and Dano. Dano gets his second point of the game. Then Buffalo evens it up. Later on in the third, Skinner gets his 16th of the season. There it is, assisted by Reinhardt and Bogosian. And then in overtime, Skinner, 17th of the season, assisted by Eichel and Dahlin. And that's his second goal of the game for Skinner. Buffalo's 1 for 4 in the power play. Montreal's 1 for 2. Hutton made 31 of 33 saves. He keeps on keeping on. Hutton, if you happen to have him, or if he happens to be available in your fantasy pool, grab him. Niemi makes 37 saves on 40 shots. He didn't have a bad night either necessarily. And Buffalo is now 15-6-2 with 32 points. And Montreal's 11-7-5 with 27. Still a decent record. Last game on this board for the matinees, the New York Islanders beat the New Jersey Devils 4-3 in overtime. Side note for this game, Boyle scored, got his 200th career point in this one, and also scored on Hockey Fights Cancer Day, which is kind of special because, as you may know, he had leukemia, and now he's healthy again. So that was nice. First period, Eberle for the Islanders gets on the board first. Gets his 6th of the season, assisted by Beauvillier. He keeps on racking up points, that rookie, as well. If you're in a big, a high round fantasy pool, you might think of picking him up, too. So it's 1-0 the Islanders going into the second period. New Jersey ties it up. Hull gets his 7th of the year, who's having a bit of a slow start, unassisted. Islanders then take the lead again. Lee gets his 7th of the year, assisted by Filppula and Mayfield. So it's 2-1 Islanders. Third period, New Jersey ties it up. There's Boyle's goal, gets his 7th, assisted by Coleman and Vatanen. Boyle and Vatanen, by the way, both were back from injuries in this game. This was their first game back. Then New York Islanders take the lead again. Leddy gets his 1st of the year, assisted by Filppula, who gets his 2nd point of the night. New Jersey ties it up again. This looks like a nice back and forth game. Johansson got his 3rd of the year, assisted by Hull, who gets his 2nd point of the night, and Butcher. And then in overtime, Barzal scores a beautiful goal, assisted by Nelson. Barzal gets his third of the season. He's such an amazing skater. Islanders go 0-3 on the power play, as does New Jersey. The Islanders are now 11-8-2 with 24 points. New Jersey 9-9-3 with 21 points. That's it. That's all for the matinee games. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like if you like this video. Smash subscribe if you really liked it. And if you have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks so very much. And coming up next, or soon, tonight, will be the evening games. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.